All right, time now for everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time.
It's time for a good old-fashioned Q&A, MMA fans.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment has arrived to hear from the man himself, Ariel Helwani. Live from the Vox Studios in beautiful New York City. It's
wow, a lot of text here today. That's one thing about doing the show.
To answer your questions, get out of your seats and on your feet because
you kind
here
of
he
ignore
is,
the phone. I got to stretch. Yes. From the Northwest. Do you remember that song, Frank? Northern Touch?
Yes.
You do remember Northern Touch?
Of course.
We notorious. Ain't nobody can hang with us. Rascals, checkmate, Cardinal, and the Choclair coming down with the Northern Touch.
Northern Touch.
Why you people want to hang with us? Ain't nobody can bang with us. That was the anthem back in the day. That was the anthem. All right, let's go to the questions, everyone's favorite segment of the week. It is time for On the Nose, my friends. Moderator Lewis has sent me the question.
Did you just give a promotion there?
Yeah, you know what? He deserves it. Moderator Lewis has sent us the questions, and you have, I presume, sent us some good ones. So away we go. No time to waste. Logan K starts us off. How do you build a new relationship with fighters or managers to get them as guests on the show? It's been fun seeing all the first-time guests and getting the opportunity to learn about their story. Thanks, Logan. How do I build a new relationship? I mean, honestly, there aren't that many managers in the sport. Can I break the fourth wall with everyone?
Need to.
When there's a first-time guest that I've never met before and I don't know who they are represented by, I always reach out to one person who, more often than not, I would say 9 times out of 10, tells me how to get to that person, or at least who manages them. And then if you tell me who manages them, I know how to get to them. That person is our good friend, Danny Rubenstein. He prides himself on knowing who manages everyone. So I'll say like, oh, who manages Damon Jackson, for example. I didn't, but just came to my mind. And he'll tell me, and then I know. So at this point, I mean, how many managers are there in the game? There's FRM, there's Vayner, there's Dominance. Obviously, don't have to worry about them, except for a few, of course. Shout out Kayla, Derek, Corey, others. There's Iridium. There's Sucker Punch. Probably shouldn't have done this out loud because someone's going to get mad. Paradigm, of course. Markel's team was CAA. No, so there's 10 at most. So I know how to get to those guys or gals, and then you get to the fighters. Every fighter has a different way to get to them. Like I've said in the past, some you go through the manager, some you go through their PR person, some you go through their coach. Sometimes they'll hit me up. I've said Ed Cap is the best as far as management team goes. Like as far as PR guys for management teams, he worked for Jason House's Iridium. He's the best. I'll get a text from Ed within a second of a win. They represent Andre Feely, Damon Jackson. Like I'll get a text within a second. He is the absolute best. And then other guys, you could go through them. It's all different, but there's not that many to where even if I've never met them before, it's that hard. And I love having the first timers on because you get to learn about them and develop a new relationship and see if they're fun on the show. So, and of course it's fun to have like the old time, like Andre Feely now is an old timer in many respects, as crazy as that may sound. So there's, I guess, a science to it, but there's actually not that many people that you need to know because there's not that many managers in the game. Abe, hello, Ariel. Just wanted to comment on how over, in pro wrestling terms, Paulo Costa is right now. From the disappointing title fight and wine excuse to becoming one of the most likable guys in the sport, I can't think of a better resurgence since Cody Rhodes left WWE as Stardust and returned to steal the show at WrestleMania. Not a bad example. The secret juice is genius and needs trademarking. It's okay. I'll let him continue and then I'll have my say on the secret juice. His humor is great despite the broken English, and he can even cut hair. Wish he left Rick with the Heyman haircut. Bohashinia is winning. If he fights Chimaev, they promote a right and he wins. He becomes one of the biggest stars in the sport. Much love, your boy Abe. Couldn't agree more. Here's the secret. Self-deprecation. people accused him of being on the juice. He's now making fun of himself in a way with the secret juice. Now he takes it seriously, but there's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. The Twitter game is fun. There was a time 6, 7, 8 months ago where the Twitter game wasn't very fun. He's cleaned it up. It's less offensive, if you will, even though it's very funny and at times teeters. He was going a little crazy, a year or so ago. I remember at one point saying him versus Sean Strickland, like battle it out to see who can lose their Twitter account first, because they were both a little bit out there. But he's reined it in. I presume that's Tamara. Shout out to her. And he's funny. He's self-deprecating. He's a great-looking guy, but he doesn't mind making fun of himself. The tweets, the memes, he's interacting with the people. He's putting himself out there. He's being himself. He's being goofy. He's being funny. And people like that sort of thing. There's not enough fighters who are down to be like that. So yeah, it's fun. It's unexpected. He was despised after the Izzy fight. He was a joke when people came out and talked about the wine and all this stuff. And he had some rebuilding to do. And he has done that. And he didn't have to fight all that often. He's just put himself out there. He's been comfortable enough to mock himself, to be, the butt of his own joke at times. Puts himself as a big guy and all that stuff. And people love it. And the broken English sometimes, I think, actually works to his advantage. And that's why I've often said to fighters, even if you can't speak fluently, it's better because people connect with you if you are speaking in their language. A hair just flew, like a little hair just flew right up my nose in that moment. Can you believe it?
I can believe it.
Yeah, so big. This reminds me of the time that I was...
In the nose program.
On the nose, in the nose. Did you see that? Can someone do the replay? It literally was just floating in the air and just...
Do you need a tissue?
You know what's crazy? When I was in high school, 11th grade, grade 11. In Canada, we say grade 11. Here, you say 11th grade. I was sitting in the cafeteria and people were throwing around carrots. And someone from the other end of the cafeteria threw a baby carrot and it hit me right in the nose. And in that moment, I realized I have a really big nose.
It was from when a baby carrot hit you. Why were they throwing...
From the other end of the cafeteria, it nailed me right in the nose.
Were they aiming at you?
They were just being idiots. But I was like, wow, my nose is so big that the baby carrot hit it. If you have a small nose, baby carrot's not hitting it from the other
right
end.
by it, from what I understand.
Anyway, messed me up. Shemaev, very fun. Lewis, afternoon, Ariel, interjecting myself here as I've read all the questions and nobody has taken your hot tag from Monday's All-Time Ever show. Please take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts on the career of the great Jose Aldo, his arrival and his rise in WC, his reign as the dominant champion, the standing legacy he leaves behind. Much love, Lewis. Tremendous question, Lewis. Some might note I put this up on Monday. This is WEC Jose Aldo. I mean, what a legend, young man. Jose Aldo comes into WEC, knocking people out. He's a tour de force. And I was there in Vegas. It was the week of UFC 106. He fought on a Thursday night against Mike Brown for the WEC title. Won that fight. On the Friday, they held a media day with him. And he was so young, fresh-faced, wide-eyed, told us about the scar on his face. And you were just like, wow, I'm looking at the 145-pound version of Anderson Silva. The kicks, the speed, the striking, the exuberance, the personality, the country. There were a lot of similarities there. And then he goes on this incredible run where he doesn't lose a fight until 2015. He's the face of the featherweight division. He's the face of WEC. He has these massive fights against the likes of Uriah Faber, lucky enough to be there, Sacramento, Arco Arena. Guy who didn't speak English but was able to connect with people through his fighting, through his colorful personality. He's smiling, he's dancing, he's jumping into the crowd. He was incredible. I don't know if the 45 division has the longevity that it has without him. He's fighting on, the big card in Toronto, UFC 129. But the one thing he was missing was the foil, right? He was missing that rivalry. He was missing that guy. Had a little bit of it with Faber, was one-sided. Then comes Conor. And we know what happens. And again, I'll reiterate what I said on Sunday, what I wrote on Sunday. To me, his greatest legacy, obviously when I think of Jose Aldo, I think of one of the greatest fighters of all time. Top 10, absolutely. Top 8, top 6, top 7, top 5, top 4. You can make a case for this, honestly, given the resume, given everything he did. So, of course, the title defenses, the main events, the knockouts, the wins, all those things have to be discussed. But if you remember just how big that Conor fight was, the buildup, the heat, the world tour, the emotion, it was unlike anything we've ever seen. And the fact that Conor brought that to him, right? He poked that bear, the big bad Jose Aldo that no one dared challenge. And they went on this incredible tour. Aldo was shook. He got in his head. He knocks him out in 13 seconds, right? He knocks him out in 13 seconds. They go to the back. You see this footage of him crying on his knees, on the ground. And you think to yourself, this guy's done. This could be it. How's he going to return from this? This is going to break him. It breaks mere mortals like me. It breaks regular people like you and I. What happens? Dusts himself off, wins the interim belt, fights for the 45 belt a couple times, goes down to 35. Looks like death initially. What happens? Figures it out, goes on a run there, fights for that belt. 7 years later, he's fighting in potential number 1 contender fights. 7 years later, he's still in the mix. 7 years later, he's very relevant. He's not getting knocked out. He's not getting embarrassed. He's not getting beat up. It's incredible. So when I say his greatest legacy is that he didn't let that moment, that soul-crushing moment, that potentially career redefining moment, he didn't let it define him. It was a stumble. It was an obstacle. It was a blip on the radar. He came back and he was still relevant. He was still a headliner. He was still dominant. That to me is incredible. And that is not done by most fighters. He deserves incredible praise for that. He deserves the utmost respect for that. And that to me says it all about who Jose Aldo is. This guy is a fighter. This guy came from nothing, came from nowhere, made it to the top, fell down. I mean, couldn't have fallen further and climbed himself back up in relative short order, got right back to the top. Incredible. Always a pleasure, always a sweetheart, always a mensch, did it the right way. No controversy, no whispers, no nothing, no accusations. What can you say? So to me, it's a sad day. It's a day to celebrate. It's a time to celebrate. It's a time to honor. It's a time to pay respects. I would love to have him on to talk to him about his career and everything he's accomplished. And I don't know. I can see Aldo disappearing. Never liked the media. Never liked the attention. Never liked the spotlight. I could see him going the Anderson route, doing a little boxing here or there. I really have no idea. Maybe take some time off, then reassess. But I hope he is happy, and I hope that he is content, and I hope he realizes just how incredible he was and how beloved he was. Remember in Rio, King of Rio, UFC 142, he wins that fight. He gets the big knockout over Chad Mendes, and he runs into the crowd, and he's getting carried on their shoulder. I mean, it was just an amazing scene. What a legend. I feel sorry if you missed that era. Remember in San Diego, I think he knocked out, was it Chris Mickle? And then he jumped into the crowd, ran all the way to the top. That guy's a legend. By the way, yesterday, I was on the Bill Simmons podcast, and I made an analogy at the time on the spot that I'm very proud of, incredibly proud of. I was talking, he loves the analogies, and we were talking about the Buffalo Bills and how the soul-crushing loss to the Chiefs last January is not going to define them. Now, I would never compare the current Buffalo Bills team and Josh Allen to Jose Aldo because they aren't champions. They have never been champions. They've never won, the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl, as you Americans like to say. However, it is amazing to me that there's that 13-second number there, right? And I was like, wow, the Buffalo Bills are Jose Aldo. The 13 seconds against Conor McGregor didn't define Jose Aldo, and the 13 seconds against the Chiefs won't define the Buffalo Bills. I mean, is that an analogy or is that an analogy, GC? One of the all-time greats?
When you sent that to me, I was actually pretty impressed with it.
Thank you. 13 seconds. So what happened when he lost in 13 seconds? Came back, beat Frankie Edgar. You'll see what's going to happen in February. You'll see. Jeffrey, how do you view your career in terms of posterity? When you're old, just a crispy, wrinkled creature, how do you hope your work will be remembered? Clips of your interviews existing eternally on highlight reels, kids coming up seeking to pave a path parallel to yours, being referenced as a legend. Do you even pay consideration to these kinds of things? The easy road, as regards to answering this question, would be to play humble. I invite you to not. Oh, golly, consider this a pass. Full amnesty for a moment of braggadocio. Honestly, how do you hope your work to be remembered? Thank you for what you do. It adds immense joy to my weeks. Golly, how am I supposed to answer that, guys?
With humility.
I agree. No, look, obviously you want to be remembered. Obviously you want to be considered the best at what you do. Obviously you want to have a legacy. I feel pretty lucky that, for the most part, a lot of my work is on YouTube, and I hope YouTube never goes away, as opposed to someone whose work was always on TV and then it kind of airs and it goes away. I think we're really lucky that our work can live on a YouTube platform. There's like a slice of the MMA Hour run and even the MMA Fighting run where we were doing our videos, we were putting them on Brightcove or something, and those have kind of gone away, and that's a bummer. But I would say 85%, 75%, 80% is all there, and that's pretty damn cool. Even the ESPN stuff, that's pretty damn cool. So I'm very happy about that hopefully, my kids can watch it and my grandkids can watch it, God willing, and their grandkids and their kids, and on it goes. I don't know. I would love, it'd be great. Campbell mentioning Howard is wild to me. I don't think I'm anywhere near that. But I would be lying if I didn't say when I'm done, people are like, oh yeah, you were the best or one of the best. And I don't want to just be one of the best in MMA. I want to be considered one of the best at what he did when he did it. Not the best period. Like that always changes and there's always going to be people. But I think it's awesome when people say like, I want to do this because of you. And I watched you and I want to be better than you. Please bring it on. That would be great. As long as I'm around, I'm going to still try to be the best until I'm done. But, I think that's great. And so, yeah, I would love to have a very long career. I don't think I'm anywhere near done. I'm only 40. Why can't I go till I'm 80? It's like 40 more years. It's like 40 more years of sitting in this chair. Could you imagine that?
Oof, you're back.
Yeah. Can you imagine me doing this as a 75-year-old talking to someone who's like 22, being like, I was watching you when I was 6. I mean, there's people like that now, crazy enough. We're all getting old. But no, I appreciate it. I don't really know how to answer the question, but I hope, here's the thing. I hope that I make it to 80 doing this job, 90, whatever the number is. Hopefully, in this day and age, you can mess up. Twitter's a scary thing. I hope that I stay out of trouble and I'm able to have a long, prosperous career with no issues, with no controversies. Obviously, there's things that have happened, the banning thing that stays with you and all that stuff, but nothing that I did, right? My closet is wide open and it's very, very clean and empty at the moment. So I want to keep it that way and have a long, prosperous career. And I want to be, in all honesty, I want to be the one who writes my own story. And that's the thing that always bothered me when they said, we put a bullet in your head and your career's over. Like, no, you don't get to decide when I'm done. I'm going to decide when I'm done. And if it's going to be the end, it's going to be my fault or it's going to be my decision. I'm not letting someone else decide that. We only get one life. To give someone that kind of power over your life would be very silly. So that's a very important thing for me. And even if you lose a job or shit happens, bad luck, I've definitely lost my fair share of jobs and it had nothing to do with me, sales and budget cuts and all that stuff. That happens, but you dust yourself off. You get back out there. Like Joe Pyfer said, you don't feel sorry for yourself and you keep fighting. And hopefully that is part of the legacy as well. A lot of roadblocks, a lot of shit, sandwiches, but we kept on trucking. El Cubano. Hola, Ariel. As another week passes by, we inch closer to the debut of Jon Jones at heavyweight. I hope. Now, understandably, there's a lot still up in the air as far as opponent date, title implications, and even Ngannou's contract. My question this week is, what does your gut tell you at this very moment as far as the expected date, opponent, and title implications for a Jon Jones return? P.S. Your Bills will go down this weekend. Fins up. Ha! 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 It's very cute. Everyone's very cute right now about the Dolphins. Right now, if I had to say gut, again, this is not me reporting it. You're asking me my gut. Feels like as every day passes, December 10th is becoming more and more unlikely. If I had to say gut, I say March Ngannou. If I had to say right now, that could change in 5 minutes. Right this second, March Ngannou. They try to figure out the Ngannou thing. They re-sign him, and they do the Big Jones fight. He's just not going to be ready in December. Ngannou. Gavin, hi Ariel. I wanted to know how you feel about how heavily the UFC are advertising gambling during broadcasts recently. The frequency of this has increased massively over the last year or so. Yeah, a lot of money in that world. As witnessed by, that right there.
Oh, the bug.
Yes. As a UK fan, I feel like it's taken the route of football where it's unavoidable to watch games without being smothered in gambling ads. Dicey. With how destructive gambling can be, I hope that it can be done more. I hope it can be more regulated and wondered if you'd agreed. Yeah, of course, but it's not going anywhere. And there's just too much money from an advertising standpoint being generated from all of this. So it ain't going anywhere. I know you also do betting segments, so I am expecting this to be ignored. It wasn't, but I hope not, as it's an important issue that isn't really being discussed. Well, and anytime we talk about the stuff here, we talk about the restrictions, minimum age, eligibility, all that stuff. But yeah, listen, I think ultimately, free country, no one getting hurt, it's better for everyone. Am I a big gambler myself? No. That's why I don't really make the picks. I'm very open about this. That's why I laugh when people say, show me your snips. I did bet on Nottingham Forest. My son keeps calling them Nottingham Forest, and I just did it.
Is that what's jinxed it?
Yes, and by the way, Gavin says, P.S. Nottingham Forest are going to be relegated. Yeah? Well, here's the thing. A year ago this time, they were bottom of the EFL. Chill out, all right? They've got 21 new players. Take some time for them to be, on the same page, gel. We still believe, and I won't, quote unquote, jump off the bandwagon if that's a real thing. If you can even be a bandwagon of a team in their spot, if that could even exist, I don't think it can, but people want to say that I'm jumping on a bandwagon. I'm going to remain a fan for life. Anyway, back to the gambling. I don't think it's going anywhere, so it's really up to us to police ourselves and make sure that we don't go too crazy. I mean, let me ask GC. It's more a part of his life. What do you think? Do you think it can be
flooded with alcohol advertisements, and that can be very detrimental to your life as well? It's just all about self-control, and if you don't like them, ignore them.
I agree.
I see this complaint very often, and it's just like, ignore it. Everything can have problems in your life. I mean, hey, you watch an alcohol commercial, it makes it look like the most luxurious thing. Mm-hmm. It's going to be nothing but great times. And they come on all the time, and I don't hear anybody complaining about those. So
it's a great point. Said it better than I could have. Stefan, what's good, Ariel? Great show Monday. Props to everyone on the team who made it happen. Yes, I agree. Props to everyone on the team who made it happen. 2 quick questions. With Cody Garbrandt being pulled from his upcoming event after not being able to find an opponent, how do you see the rest of his career playing out? Looking at his losses, he's went up against some tough dudes, but on the other hand, he has taken a lot of damage. Yeah, he has. Not ready to write him off. Didn't love the move to 25. 35 is his weight class. And, I hope that he can go on a run. And I've always liked Cody. I've always had immense respect for his career, for his story. The win over Dominic Cruz was one of the greatest wins by a challenger in a title fight ever. It was unbelievable what he did. Would love to see him go on a run towards the end of his career now and, finish on a high note. Number 2, you mentioned and it has to be at 35. Definitely not 25, even 45, less of a weight cut. You mentioned to Paulo on Monday that you don't know how to ride a bike, and it made me wonder, how did this affect your childhood, if at all? Did you ever have to revert to alternative travel methods with your friends? At one time, I had to trail behind my boys while riding a Razor scooter, and let me tell you, there's nothing more demoralizing. Wow, sounds like Stefan is a non-bike rider as well. Much love from Central PA, Stefan. It has affected me on multiple fronts. Number 1 now, I would love to go on a bike ride with my kids. My 2 boys can ride very well. My wife obviously can ride. My daughter does the training wheel thing, but it would be great. I envy people when I see them out in the neighborhood doing that. So I feel like I'm missing out, especially in the pandemic when there was nothing to do. We would go on long bike rides. I would walk the dog. And I was like, I feel like I'm missing out a little bit, even though I love dog matcha.
I thought you were joking.
No, I've talked about this multiple times. I don't know how to ride a bike. I've tried. The other time, I remember being in summer camp. I went to Camp Masad in Montreal, and they told us that we were going to go on a bike ride. I was a CIT. Do you know what a CIT is? A counselor in training?
I know it now.
Anyway, I was a CIT, and they said we're going to go on a bike ride. And I said, I don't know how to ride a bike. And like, of course you know how to ride a bike. Are you kidding? And I was like, I don't know how to ride a bike. I'm telling you, I don't. And so they took us on a highway. And I was like, I really don't know how to ride, but I guess I'll just kind of figure this out. Within 0.2 seconds, I fell. And I got really mad, and I threw the bike on the ground. It wasn't a highway. It was like a busy street. And I said, I don't know how to ride a bike. I tried to tell you guys I'm out of here. And I just kind of sat back. And that was demoralizing because you're a kid. I think I was 98. I think I was 16, turning 16. And I felt like a doofus. Now, you know why it really bothered me? Because, if I'm being 100% honest, and I know there's some non-bike riders out there that can sympathize with me, I had a massive crush on a girl there. Her name was Randy Moskovich. I had such a big crush on her. I loved her. And there was only like 10 of us. And so I wanted to go on the bike ride to be cool, right? Ride around, have a good time. I missed out on all of it because there I am, second day of camp, third day of camp. I'm sitting back like a doofus, twiddling my thumbs, and I can't be cool next to the girl that I have the crush on. It's absolutely demoralizing when you're 16 years old. So those two things really stick with me.
That.
Yeah, it was a big deal for me. Okay. I've gotten over it, but now with my kids, I'm like, I'd like to ride. And I've tried. And there was one time with my good friend John Beer where I figured it out for like a minute. And I went, Central Park, I went on a little bit of a push. Like it was like a little push, and then never again.
Just real quick, like any other balance thing, like rollerblades, ice skating?
So I could do roller skates, ice skating, I'm great. I can't figure it out.
You can ice skate, but you can't ride a bike.
I can ice skate like I'm
skiing, snowboarding.
I'm one of the greatest ice skaters in the biz. By the way,
I'm garbage at ice skating.
You know what's crazy about the skiing that you just mentioned? I skied for the first time in my life, not this winter, the previous winter, so 2021. Never skied before in my life. We get to the hill. My wife was with my daughter, and I'm standing there with skis on, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? I have no idea how to do this. It was terrifying. And I went down, and because I've skated my whole life, I figured it out on the spot. I swear to God. And I was very proud of myself. So now we'll go. I've never taken a lesson. I just go down. Am I great at it? Probably not. I've kind of figured it out over time. You move your knees, you sit back, cool. You look at other people, what they're doing. So I'm great at that. We've gone roller skating, great at that. Obviously I can skate. Just fine at that. We skated last winter.
No dirt bikes, motorcycles.
Can't do it.
Understood.
I used to have a lot of ear infections as a kid, and I always thought it was that. But I guess
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you explain the skating?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad of an ear infection.
I guess it was pretty damn bad. Anyway, Israel. Good morning from Idaho. Absolutely loved the interview with MJF on Monday. In the past, you have spoken about your interview with Sasha Banks and how uncomfortable it was due to her staying in character, and I would agree. Thank you. I felt like MJF did the same. However, it felt like a completely different type of interview that I loved. I agree. Thank you. He actually gave really good answers while staying in character, but also avoided the word promo and also commonly used terms for pro wrestling. What were your thoughts on the interview? And is it true that there, in fact, was a McDonald's bag underneath the desk? Thank you as always. No. Here's the thing. He is a brilliant, or that man, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, brilliant performer. I won't say like what we talked about there, but you catch my drift. This guy here, what he did, it was a pleasure. It was an honor to see him work, if you will. Here's the difference, though. He's going in and out. He's kind of skirting that line, a little bit in, a little bit out, which kind of keeps you guessing what's real, what's not. But he does it with such a charm, and he's so smart about it. It's not like the Sasha Banks interview that I always reference where there was no charm and there was no kind of intelligence. It was just like you're trying to work someone in a very cold way. It's not going to be fun. He does it where he's almost like engulfing you in the world for an hour, and it's very fun, but he's also going back and forth and talking about very real things that wrestlers don't usually talk about. That's what works with him. He's talking about his contract. He's talking about free agency. He's talking about his dealings with Tony Khan. He's talking about the back stage stuff. He's talking about behind the scenes. That's fun. We love that stuff. But he's also doing it, quote unquote, in character, which is also very fun. So I don't know. There's a magic to what he does, and I would argue like the reason why I love talking to wrestlers more often than not is because they don't stay in character. With him, it's a little bit different because he goes back and forth. He does it in a very, very fun, charming way that keeps you on your toes and allows you to kind of think like, okay, what's real, what's not, what can I, you have to almost like sift through this with a comb, and you're like, yeah, I know there's some money problems, but did he really resign? And did they bump his pay but not extend him? It just keeps you guessing. And it's fun. So I loved he comes in with such energy. He leaves with energy. He's a genius. He's the best thing going in pro wrestling right now, in my opinion. Number one, regardless of promotion. Anytime I see a clip, anytime I see a promo, an oratory exhibition, anytime I see any of that coming from him, I stop, I watch it. Full stop. Must see. Harry, hey, Gringo Poppy Helwani, do you think Arnold Allen is going to get the UFC screw job and have to fight another fight before a title shot if he wins against Kattar, especially with Bryce Evloev fighting the week after? Also, what do you think of Tony Ferguson versus Jim Miller? Don't hate it. Don't hate it. 55, don't hate it. Probably needs a bit of a break, but don't hate it. Think this is the perfect fight for the stage of both careers. Keep winning. Viva Helwani. Don't hate that one at all. Arnold Allen. See, if Arnold Allen wins in October and they go to London for Leon Usman in March or April, hearing maybe April, Allen's going to be on that card and he's going to have a big fight. Is it a title fight? No, but it can't be less than a number one contender fight. So maybe he gets one more after Kattar, maybe, but UK scene is on fire. The biggest obstacle that Arnold Allen has to deal with is his health, his hand. Can he stay healthy? Can his body allow him to fight multiple times a year? That's going to be what the UFC looks at when they decide, do they want to put him in a title fight? And I think it's actually a fair point. Tough to get someone over. Tough to put someone in a title fight. Tough to get the belt on them. And then they fight once a year, once every year and a half. If he can fight consistently, I think they would be behind him. What's not to love? Brantley, any news on the Fyodor front? Last we heard he was getting a retirement fight in Russia, obviously delayed by the war over there. Are they still waiting that out? I don't know how long they're going to wait it out, but I have not heard anything on Fyodor. Ricky, where do you think best suits Eddie Alvarez since he has parted ways with one? Yes, big news yesterday, Eddie Alvarez announcing, and I think we'll get him on the show soon, that he has parted ways with one. It was a nice run. They did good business, but he's now a free agent. Ricky says BKFC, no thanks. PFL, I'd love to see him in the PFL. PFL is getting aggressive. Why not? I still think Eddie has some miles left. I don't know if he goes back to Bellator. That might be weird. What about Combate, by the way? That could be interesting. But if I had to pick one, PFL. Nathan, Ariel, my man, I was so stoked to see my favorite fighter, Mr. Sandhagen, win over the weekend. I've really enjoyed your interviews with him, particularly discussions around philosophy and books he is inspired by, like Be Here Now by Ramdas, and how frequently he reads them. Got me thinking, are there books you frequent or excerpts you go to for inspiration, whether religious, philosophy, fiction, sport, etc.? I have gone back to things for inspiration. I've never been a big like inspirational book guy, but I've definitely gone back to moments, interviews, videos. I've talked about one that I've gone back to hundreds of times. One that has really stuck with me was Jeremy Schaap's story on Bobby Fischer. Have you guys ever seen this story? It aired on ABC like in 2004, 2005. Jeremy Schaap, the son of the legendary Dick Schaap, he is a legend in his own right, has been working at ESPN for 2 decades plus. Did you ever work with him, Connor?
Yeah, on The Sporting Life.
Amazing. Why you laugh? I love that podcast.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite podcasts / shows. I know it would air like Sunday mornings at 6 a.m.
That's why I laughed. Yeah, you're finishing an overnight shift, and
okay,
that's how you finish it, The Sporting Life.
But podcast-wise, actually, in the early days of the pandemic, like March, April, all I listened to was old Sporting Life episodes, because every podcast that I would listen to, a sports podcast, it was all about COVID, and it was depressing as hell. And I needed to block it out. So I would go to they were very evergreen shows, right? So I would go to old Sporting Life episodes, and it put me in such a great mood. And I remember being on a walk one time. I was listening to a Vince Carter episode, and I was thinking, like, are we ever going to get back to normal life? Is this ever going to happen? Because, in the early days, it was very depressing. Couldn't go into parks and stuff. Anyway, he did this story on Bobby Fischer. In case you don't know, Bobby Fischer, the legendary chess player, was very close to his father, the late Dick Schaap, and then they had a falling out, and Bobby Fischer essentially was ostracized from America and went against some sanctions and was very anti-Semitic, and even though he is technically Jewish, and just turned into a very controversial figure, he flew to Reykjavik to interview him when he returned to Iceland. He got citizenship there, amnesty, and he's at this press conference, and he's asking him questions, and he mentioned his name, and he said, "Are you Dick Schaap's son?" And he called him, the rat and all this stuff. And there's a back and forth there where he goes on this rant about his father, who's no longer alive, calls him a crazy person, all this. He said, he called me, I didn't have a sane bone in my body. He said some mean things about me. And they're at this press conference, and Jeremy stands there, and he lets him speak. He lets him finish. He takes a breath, and he said, do you remember those things? Did you read those things that your father said about me? Where his father, Dick, said he didn't have a sane bone in his body. And he said, honestly, I don't know if I read them, but I believe I heard them. And honestly, Bobby, I don't think you've done anything today to disprove any of that, something to that effect. And he stands there, and they cut back and forth, and then he walks off. And I was just like, man, the freaking balls on this guy. Like, to have that kind of poise, to have that kind of strength, to have that kind of confidence to stand there in that moment, in that scene, in that hostility, and deliver a line like that. I've looked at that so many times. Also, his interview with Bobby Knight when he was let go from Indiana, and Bobby Knight said, "You'll never be as good as your dad," or something like that. And he just stood there and took it and was a freaking rock. Like, so I look at moments like that with great admiration, inspiration, and I've watched those over and over again. There's several interviews like that I've watched over and over again, and I watch them for inspiration, for motivation, more so than reading books like that. Everyone finds their motivation from and inspiration from other sources, but that's, given what I do for a living, that's what I've done over the years. I interviewed Jeremy a few months ago, and it was one of the highlights of this past year for me, because I just have so much respect. And honestly, top 5 nicest people that I ever met at ESPN. I mean, just when I got to do Outside the Lines with him and E60 with him, career highlight that I'll never forget. Hut, man, Monday was a dark day for Frankie boy. Question for Frank. On a scale of 1 to 10, how intimidated were you in your interactions with MJF? Did you think a salt of the earth was coming? Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work. Meaning, I think he's saying, like, did you think that a nicer guy was going to come? When he says, do you think that, he likes to say salt of the earth, but did you think it was going to be a nicer guy? I think that's what he means by that. But anyway.
Thanks for explaining.
How was it with MJF?
I mean, I'd say on a scale of 1 to 10, like a strong 8. Someone yelling in my ear, being very impatient.
Yeah.
Have
you dealt with a lot of that in your career?
No, usually very respectable artist, guest.
Would you say he was one of the worst?
I would say that he definitely wanted to make sure that I took care of him.
Wow.
It's pretty scary, to be honest.
Would you prefer if he never returned to the show?
Next time I'll have somebody else mic him up.
All right, fair enough. I respect it. Luis. Hi, Ariel. Mike Heck and AK Lee, two great guys who I've met, answered a question on Ask Us Anything, on their Ask Us Anything edition of another MMA fighting podcast called On to the Next One. Yes, I've heard about it as well, and it's great, and I recommend everyone go check it out. That's on their podcast feed, also typically on the YouTube channel, about who would be part of their dream Between the Links matchup between current MMA media members. Their answer was Jen Mishu versus you. Wow. How probable do you think that debate could happen one day with your schedule, and how do you see that matchup going? I mean, I could sit here and cut a promo on Jed, but I like him too much, so I won't do that. Why'd they pick me? I don't know. You've been on Between the Links. Have you ever gone against Jed? I mean, that's your...
Yeah, my guy.
Yeah.
No bets barred.
No bets barred.
I mean, easy dub, but yeah.
Easy dub for who?
Come on.
Helwani?
No. My battle.
Oh, okay. Sorry. You had an easy dub.
Yeah, easy dub.
No. I mean, I think if they reach out to my people, we could probably set something up. I do have an appearance fee, which we need to address. But no, I've been on Between the Links. I think I was a guest judge for one final round last year when I came back. But that's their thing. I don't want to intrude on that. But I'm honored that I was suggested. And of course I would lay the smackdown and it'd be 10-7s all around, but neither here nor there. Eran, Shalom Ariel. As a Jew from Israel, Shalom, I'm wondering how you and your family will celebrate Rosh Hashanah next week. Ooh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I have to say something about that. Are you planning a nice dinner? If so, what is your favorite dish? In addition, what is your favorite Jewish holiday? Toda rabba, Eran. So, thank you for reminding me. Number one, Rosh Hashanah is next Sunday night, Monday night. Those are the 2 nights. Rosh Hashanah is 2 nights. It's the Jewish New Year, but it's a 2-night affair, at least outside of Israel. In Israel, it's a 1-night affair. No, that's Passover, 2 nights. It's very complicated. Anyway, 2 nights where I'm from, which means no show next Monday. Thank you for reminding me, Eran. I almost forgot. No show next Monday because it's Rosh Hashanah. I've always done this. We're actually going to be missing a couple. There's Yom Kippur coming up. There's Indigenous Peoples Day. We'll tell you more about those as it becomes relevant. But all you need to know is next week, only one show. It's next Wednesday because we're off on Monday. I'm going back to Montreal, and I'm very excited about this because the last 2 years I could not go back for Rosh Hashanah due to the pandemic and all the rules and restrictions. And that's very depressing because I feel like these are important times. There's usually 2 Jewish holidays that we go back for. It's Rosh Hashanah and Passover. And I haven't been back for either in a while. 2019 was the last time. So I'm very excited about that. Usually split it up because both my wife's family and my family live in Montreal. So one night we do at my house, one night at her house. Her family is much bigger than mine. So a lot of her siblings, cousins, etc. Mine is a little smaller, but grandparents, whatever. And it's great. I mean, my mom's cooking, I think, is the greatest in the world. I would say that to anyone, including my wife, and she knows it. I love my mom's cooking. It's just incredible. Mostly Middle Eastern, Italian. Those are the 2 main genres, if you will, cuisines. And it's just great to be home, and I'm just looking forward to being home. Sometimes synagogue, sometimes not. Not sure what we're doing this time. It's a short trip because have to be back for the Wednesday show. but I'm looking forward to it greatly. And you missed the holidays. I would say my favorite one is probably Passover because it's usually beginning of spring. It's always a great time on the sports calendar. Final Four, we'd get off from school for a week. Beginning of baseball season. Just fun stuff. Playoffs, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs start. Like April's a great time in the sports calendar. And so I've always enjoyed Passover. The leaves are coming back, blooming. The weather's getting better. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is very depressing. You have to fast for 25 hours. I don't enjoy that. Well, getting colder, school's back. Bit of a more depressing time, fall, winter. I've always enjoyed Passover very much. That's probably my pick for the favorite one. Jamal, aloha Ariel. We were having a debate at work about whether or not you have to clean your work coffee cup. I personally wash it out in the work kitchenette after each use. My coworker has never cleaned his in over 2 years. What? That's disgusting. He consumes black coffee all day and at the end of the day, leave whatever is left in the mug. Gross. The next morning, he dumps the old one and fills it up with new coffee. What? That is the weirdest crap I've ever heard. His white mug is now completely stained with brown. I'm pretty sure this is how he says, I'm pretty sure this is how COVID started. Half the office thinks it's fine. The other half are disgusted. What do you guys think? Lewis says, some people out here festering coffee. Some of us are out here sniffing hats. Weird, Lewis. Wow. Thank you for that. That's a weird one. By the way, a lot was made of the hat thing. First of all, do you think I watched that Jabroni show? Like, how would I know that the hat was somewhere else? And also, dare I say, not the same hat. I think that's why he covered it up, because he wants you to think it's the same hat. I'm going with the theory that it's not the same hat. How about that?
I'll buy it.
Yeah. In any event, this coffee thing is an absolute disaster. First of all, the germs that are on that coffee cup now, you got to wash it after each use. I don't care if it's for the same person. It's just gross, right? Could you imagine? I mean, Corporate Alex back there loves his coffee. If he's drinking out of the same cup every year, every day for a year, 2 years, not washing it, I think it would be a problem. Frank, agree or disagree?
I agree. It's disgusting.
It's absolutely insane. The germs. Forget about the coffee, like the staining. Just the germs on the cup, the top of the cup where you put your mouth. It's nasty. Yeah. Someone needs to have a talk with that guy. Pull him to the side. Have a heart-to-heart. Explain to him that this is disgusting for him and for the rest of you. And hopefully he sees the light. Russia like the nose. Salam alaikum, Ariel. Cheers from Dubai. In just under a month from now, will mark 15 years since jerrypark.com. Wow. Do you mind sharing a bit about that journey, introducing it to the world and how it got you where you are today? Also, hey, Frank, shout out to my person. Lots of love, Russia. Frank, isn't Russia the
Russia.
one that... Your relationship with Russia is something I'd love to explore more. Isn't she the one that sent us the donuts?
Yeah.
The donuts were a big hit in the Helwani household. When I came back home with some of those donuts, I mean, I was the most popular person for the night at my house. Doesn't happen often, but on that night, thanks to you and Russia, it was big.
And Russia's dad. Let's not forget that.
Where was the place again?
It's on 14th Street.
No, but Donut Depot or something?
Yeah. The Donut Pub.
Donut Pub. Tremendous. Anyway, I've actually talked about jerrypark.com a lot, so I don't want to bore the hardcores. But in short, 2007, I mean, I feel like even GC, who I've only known for a year, knows the story by now. Do you know the story about jerrypark.com?
Yeah.
In short, 2007, I get to Spike TV and I'm like, all right, this is the spot. It's the home of the UFC. I'm going to do production for them. This is going to be great. I'm there for a week. I realized this place isn't that great and I want to quit. I was very spontaneous and I kind of, listened to my heart, my soul, my mind. And I was like, this place isn't for me. So I go to my boss's office, Brian Diamond. I say, hey, I'd like to leave. He gets very mad. He says, I'm going to regret it. He says that I'll never live this down. It's a huge mistake. I'll be blackballed from the industry. But hey, we can't force you to stay here. Month and a half, they keep me around. No one talks to me. No one likes me. Everyone thinks I'm a crazy person. During that month and a half, I'm at a crossroads in my life. I realized, all right, I'm going to go for it. I'd always kind of flirted with the idea of being an MMA journalist, and I say, all right, I'm going to go for it. I remember I was standing outside the Whole Foods, Columbus Circle, and I called my good friend Aaron Cohen, who's kind of like my mentor. By the way, just wrote the Dick Ebersol book. I mean, the most prolific, smartest, unbelievable person that I've ever met in the TV business. I called him up and I asked him what he thought of this. And he said, yeah, go for it. And so my idea was that I was going to start a website and I was going to show people that I can interview fighters better than anyone, or at least try. And my idea was every morning at 8 a.m., I would post an interview with a fighter, Monday through Friday. And I would reach out to these fighters because I knew none of them personally, and I knew zero managers, zero promoters, no one. I'd reach out to them via MySpace. That was the way I reached out to them. And every morning at 8 a.m., I would post on my WordPress website that was designed at one time by my good friend Daniel Wolf. Also, my brother-in-law, Robert Stein, helped design it. We'd put, there was like a flash player, and you click on it. You couldn't download the interview. There were no iPods, or iPods were just introduced. There were no podcasts at the time, but you can stream it live. You click on the player and it would stream. I remember it like it was yesterday. Every morning at 8 a.m., I'd post an interview with a fighter, little blurb, audio interview. And I did it. I started on October 19th, and I said from October 19th to April 1st, 2008, I'm going to post an interview with a fighter every day in hopes of getting noticed. I didn't care if 10 people looked at the site, listened to the interviews, or 10 million people. I just wanted to use that as an online resume, if you will. And I didn't get paid for it. I didn't make any money. I got engaged during that time, living in New York City. And I said, if I don't get a job by April 1st, I will go back to TV production. I didn't want to, but obviously you have to make money. My first interview was with Kurt Angle, who I met doing a thing for SpikeTV.com and TNA, which he was working for. And it was actually a few days after he got arrested for a DUI. So it was a big interview. Dave Meltzer wrote about it in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And I was like, wow, people are paying attention. This is awesome. So I was doing interview after interview after interview, and I stayed consistent. I remember a month later, John Pollock of the Fight Network Radio, reached out to me to do an interview with Mauro Ranallo on Fight Network Radio, Thanksgiving of 2007. I thought I had reached the mountaintop. I thought I made it. I was over the moon. That Mauro Ranallo, the voice of pride, cared to talk to me. He called me the Titan of Twitter, and it was unbelievable. Well, that was over time. I don't even think I was on Twitter at that point. No, I wasn't even on Twitter. Twitter came in 2008. Anyway, so I did it, and I'm starting to get some traction. Keith Ortiz is coming on. Chuck Liddell is coming on. George St. Pierre, all through MySpace, by the way, just reaching out to fighters. I knew no one. And then we get to March, and I've got no job. And it's looking like I'm not going to get a job. It's looking like there aren't that many paying jobs in MMA journalism. And I was playing on a basketball team, the New York Urban Professional League. And there was a guy on my team named Brian Seidenberg, and he was working for a law firm that did work for the Wasserman Media Group. And they sent out an email that they were launching a website called MMArated.com. And he sent me the email, and he's like, hey, I know you're looking for a job in MMA. Maybe this could be a spot. And I looked at the website, the shell of it was up, and the idea was that it was going to be like the MySpace of MMA, where you can upload your own videos, training videos, profile stuff. And I was like, this is whack. This is not going to work. No one's going to do this. Fighters aren't going to do it. Fans aren't going to do it. No one's going to do it. But I saw that they had like a video player. And I thought, wow, this could be a place where I could do video interviews, because that's what I ultimately wanted to do, even though I was doing the audio stuff. And so I reached out to someone named Sang No, who I found his email on the website. I sent him an email, and I said, hey, these are my interviews. It's all I got. Would you like to hire me to work on the site? They liked the stuff. They reached back out. They wanted to give me the keys of the car. And I was like, all right, well, I don't really like the idea of MySpace of MMA, but I think we could do good stuff with video interviews and all that stuff, break some news. And they bought it. They liked it. And then he asked me, how much do you want to get paid? And I took the number that I was making at Spike and I doubled it. Just shot for the moon. And he said yes. And I thought that was a big win. And then on my wife's birthday, March 28th, 2008, I got the job. I started April 1st, and it was amazing because I literally started on the deadline that I was going to stay true to, and the rest is history. So that's why JarryPark.com is still up. You can go to it right now. I don't know if the Flash player still works. Does the audio still work? I'm not sure. It's been a while, but I actually just got an email that the URL was renewed. I will always renew it unless I forget. The layout changed a little bit. I don't know what happened, but there's still some stuff there. And the new stuff at the top, new I say, is some old interviews that I was posting for a little bit. The last post was May 20th, 2010. Because then I started to do like stuff for AOL and Versus and whatnot. And so I thought, oh, maybe this would be sort of like what my Substack page was for a little bit. But then I just stopped doing that because it seemed like a useless thing to do because no one was going to it. But I wonder if the old audio stuff is up. There's even some blog posts. I see one about Frank Shamrock here. It's great stuff. It's all still up there. We do, I would do some like Q&A stuff. Anyway, there it is. Jarry Park will always be a big part of my story. And oh, by the way, why is it called JarryPark.com? Because when I was at Spike and I couldn't think of a good URL, for some reason, the Expos had just left, my favorite baseball team. Their first home was called Jarry Park, and Jarry Park is still around. It's a municipal park in Montreal. And for some reason, I typed in JarryPark.com, and I couldn't believe that the city of Montreal hadn't purchased the URL. It's still around. Like they have tennis tournaments there, like the big tennis, the ATP and all that, WTA. And I couldn't believe this. I was like, I'm going to call it Jarry Park in honor of the Expos. I'm going to rechristen it the Coliseum of Combat Sports. And I just stuck with it. And I thought it was always funny when people would say like Jarry Park, like these people have no idea what Jarry Park is. And I was kind of keeping the name alive. That's why I have the Expo stuff on the set as well. Just trying to keep the memory of my favorite baseball team alive. So there's the story. Andres. Hi, Ariel. Longtime listener, first time asking a question. Welcome. What do you and the guys work on non-show days, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday? I would love to hear from you, GC, New York Rick, a.k.a. Bald Rick, and Mysterious Frank. Anyways, I love how far you guys have taken the show in a matter of a year since coming back. There's no show like the MMA. Much love from Miami. Well, as you know, I do have other responsibilities. So my days are pretty packed. And you guys all know what I do on those other days. Although one thing that I've added as of late, I took a break from doing the Helwani Show YouTube because I've really enjoyed my Tuesday. I was adding a lot on the Tuesday. Tuesday used to be my favorite day of the week. Then it became like my busiest day of the week, and I didn't love that. Been going to a trainer twice a week, Tuesday, Thursdays. Really enjoyed that. Very tired afterwards, but I really look forward to it and feeling on my way to getting healthier. I don't know if you guys saw the arms. Have you seen the arms? I mean, is there something to be said? Like, can you see a difference, Frank?
Huge.
You joke, but there's something there.
How was that a joke?
Felt like a joke. What do you do on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday, Frank?
I work at a mastering studio.
Yeah, that's fun.
And I do live engineering at a venue.
What about you, GC?
Tuesdays are my busiest day. Tuesdays spent researching, doing write-ups, just getting everything ready for betting stuff, doing the podcast for the separate podcast, No Bets Barred, getting everything there, getting ready for this show. So yeah, my Tuesdays are pretty swamped, and then Thursday and Friday are spent either on show stuff or just getting stuff ready for the weekend. And then Saturday, bets, Twitter, fights, all that. And then Sunday, spend a lot of the time putting a ribbon on the week and getting ready for the Monday show. Yeah,
it's a lot. And obviously...
It's fun, but it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, what a life we have. What a job. What a blessing. What a gift. New York Rick, not here, but he works on all the social media stuff for MMA Fighting with Jose, so he never has any time off because the sport is 24/7, 365. Carl, Ariel, Francis is one of the most captivating martial artists to ever fight in MMA. His look, personality, story, and fighting style are incomparable. Also, great guy, never met him. He wrote that. I didn't say that. It's in this thing right here. Is the UFC about to ruin the career of one of the best champions they've ever had over hubris? Talk about cutting off your face to spite your nose. Heard it both ways, Bappa. I don't think so. I think they figure it out. That's my prediction. Now, have they underpromoted him? Yes. Should they promote him better? Yes. Have they lost out on some opportunities because of said hubris? Perhaps. But gut right now says they figure it out. Handsome Rob, Hola, Senor Helwani. What do you make of the Aspen Ladd situation? Should she be cut due to the fact that she has continuously had weight issues? No, just have her fight at 45. They still do 45 fights. I saw Danielle Wolf fighting at 45. She could fight at 45. I don't know that forcing her to go to featherweight is the answer, as the women's featherweight division is pretty non-existent. But they still do fights, so have her fight there. And they still have a champion, so have her fight there. That's what I say. Texas Rob, appreciate everything that you and the boys in the back do. Much respect. But I do feel for Sarah McMahon. Shitty situation. And I don't know how you can have Aspen fight at 30. Either cut her or have her fight at 45. No more 35, please. Alex, A-Dub, according to UFC rankings, they determined by media members from the following outlets below. Do any of these people actually exist? In a recent presser, Dana answered a question about where someone will land in the rankings by saying that's up to you guys. And everyone just seems to accept that answer, despite nobody in the media room being from these outlets. What is the truth? What is the truth of what's going on here? It's the freaking weirdest thing. So these are the outlets that he lays out, and they're accurate. KHON Honolulu. I actually know the guy. That's Rob D'Amelio, and that guy's one of my favorite people in MMA. I really don't know why he does this, but that is a real outlet. That's like a local affiliate in Honolulu. MMA Oddsbreaker, CFMU 93.3, Bursprack.se, Fight News, Fight Network, Gazeta Esportiva, Cherokee Scout, Burbank Leader, MMA Weekly, KIOZ 105.3, VladuSport.com, Wrestling Observer, Top Turtle Podcast, MMA Fight Coverage, Boxeo Mundial, Kimura.se, MMA Soldier, MMA Nyut, Blood and Sweat, Inside Fighting Radio. You know what's the irony here? I feel like a lot of those outlets wouldn't even get credentialed to UFC. Back in the day, I was working for Versus, their broadcast partner. I didn't get credentialed to the UFC. This is before they knew who I was. They just said the website wasn't big enough. It was the website of the freaking network. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't think these people are real. I think it's just a ruse, and they make up the rankings to justify the fights. And that's the way it should be, to be honest. Like, I actually like the way Bellator does it. Just say it's your rankings. What do we need to do this fake song and dance where it's like, oh, the media does it? Because he's right. None of these people, or at least 98% of them, aren't in the media rooms when Dana's talking to the media. There's no junkie there. There's no fighting there. There's no ESPN there. There's no Yahoo there. There's no, I don't know, name them. All the top dogs aren't there. So what's the point? Just do it yourself and let us know where you think they should be ranked. I'd rather that. That opinion actually probably means more. It's very weird. So yeah, I don't know. George Don't Rush St. Pierre. Lord Ariel, I feel that you are a savant when navigating modern etiquette, and I seek your advice. Should I ask permission to sit down at a partially occupied public bench or table? I was at a park, and two people were sitting on a bench that could hold four. I badly needed to rest my feet, and I sat at one of the empty seats. The pair were upset as they were having a private conversation. Yeah, it's really weird. Which I interrupted. Do I need to ask before sitting on a public bench? Could they have said no to me? Can they claim a public space for themselves? Love from Toronto. If I see two people and it's a couple sitting on a bench, I'm not sitting next to them. At the very least, I'm asking, do you mind if I sit here for a sec? But unless there's an issue, like unless I'm not feeling well, 99.9% of the time, I'm looking for somewhere else.
Does this mean that they told him, like, hey, we were having a private conversation?
Seems like it, because he said they were upset.
That's even more upsetting.
No, why?
I mean, you can get up and move or give someone a dirty look. You don't have to tell them, like, you interrupted us.
Yeah.
This is your question, not mine. Sorry.
No. This is for all of us.
Dirty look over just telling them that you interrupted a conversation.
What's wrong with saying, hey, don't mean to be rude, but we were just having a personal conversation? Now, I guess they could get up.
That's
Probably the move is they get up. I don't know about the dirty look.
Sounds like he had a good reason to sit down. He wasn't
Fair.
just trying to be rude.
But to be honest, I'm not sitting there. That's incredibly awkward. If it's someone solo, I'll sit there. If it's two people who clearly aren't having a conversation, I'll sit there. Two people having a conversation, a couple, it's a bit weird. Also depends on how big the bench is. If it's a long bench, then you can maybe pull it off.
I'm just thinking of like the little Bowery Park right by the Bull over here.
Yeah.
There's benches, and yeah, they all hold 4, but like it gets pretty crowded there around lunchtime or whatever. You just sit down. And if somebody were to be like, oh, I'm sorry, we were having a conversation, it's like, it's a public space, probably not the best place to have a public conversation or a private conversation.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm so crazy that even if it's like a big public like picnic table, somebody sitting there, or even if it's in like a restaurant, you know, some restaurants like Pain Quotidien has this where it's like a long table, and I don't want to sit with anyone. I feel weird about that. Olajuwon Dream, afternoon Ariel, with Canada dropping the vaccine mandate this month, do you think it would be possible we see a fight night card take place in Canada before the end of the year? Not before the end of the year, next year. And do you think there's a preferred first destination? Yeah, probably Toronto. It's the biggest market. Wow, Olajuwon's from Winnipeg? Hope we get another UFC Winnipeg event. There's only been 2 there. I've been to one of them. And if they come back, I'm most certainly going to go and attend my first ever UFC event. Have a great day and show. I didn't know. I thought Olajuwon was from Houston or something like that. Maybe in the future, but my guess is Toronto, and my guess it would be next year. Patrick, favorite segment of the week. 2 quick questions. Ariel, when is 2 Cent Tuesdays coming back? Probably never. Got to feed the people and also the MMA media that feeds off your intel and doesn't credit you. I'm liking my, no, I'm kidding about the never. I'm liking my Tuesdays. I'm liking the flow. I'm liking the vibe. And yeah, it's just a little bit of, year 2, little this, a little that, new stuff here, new stuff there. Don't worry about it. Plus, I'm dropping nuggets left and right. It doesn't have to be an official sort of package for all of you. GC, with your newfound fame and being the baby face of all baby faces, what has been the most surreal moment for you over the past year?
I mean, there's been too many to count, but probably the most crazy moment was at UFC Long Island, meeting with our guy, Danny Rubenstein. And as we're having a conversation, someone came up to me and was like, holy shit, dude, are you Connor Burks? And I was like, I just couldn't help but like laugh. I was just like, yeah. That was pretty surreal. Yeah.
And I know you like when you get like those messages from Germany or somewhere overseas.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when it's like back-to-back messages and it's like, yo, much love from New Zealand, yo, much love from Brazil, yo, much love from Germany. And can't really wrap my head around that. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. There's too many to count. I mean, what a year it's been. You said it feels like 3 years. That's about right.
And we're just getting started, and we're just getting better. Tweet here from Irish Sam, just getting into bed here in Ireland, and Ariel Helwani is still going hard at it live on the MMA. How many hours is that? Surely a record for the show, Ariel, you work. No. I mean, a record would be like 7, but it is 5:43, and I do think it's time to go. So I appreciate everyone who sent in questions. And a reminder, no show on Monday, so I went a little longer. A lot of these were evergreen. If you want to save this for Monday, if you'll be missing me, I don't think it's a bad idea. You could space it out. Right, Frank? Space it out?
Space it out.